So, I'm telling a younger friend of mine about a strange incident that took place back when I was 18. I don't recall exactly why I brought it up. It just happened to come up as we were talking. I mean, it was something that happened long ago, ancient history, on top of which I was never able to reach any conclusion about it. I'd already graduated from a high school then, but wasn't in college yet, I explained. I was what's called an academic Ronin, a student who fails the university entrance exam and is waiting to try again. Things felt kinda up in the air, I went on. But that didn't bother me much. I knew that I could get into a halfway decent private college if I wanted to. But my parents had insisted that I try for a national university, so I took the exam, knowing all along that'd be a bust. And sure enough, I failed. The National University exam back then had mandatory math section, and I had zero interest in calculus. I spent the next year basically killing time, as if I were creating an alibi. Instead of attending cram school to prepare to retake the exam, I hung out at the local library, plowing my way through thick novels. My parents must have assumed I was studying there, but hey, that's life. I found it a lot more enjoyable to read all of Balzac than to delve into principles of calculus. At the beginning of October that year, I received an invitation to a piano recital from a girl who'd been a year behind me in school and had taken piano lessons from the same teacher as I had. Once, the two of us had played a short four hands piano piece by Mozart. When I turned 16, though, I'd stopped taking lessons and hadn't seen her after that. So, I couldn't figure out why she'd sent me this invitation. Was she interested in me? No way. Was she attractive? For sure. Though, not my type in terms of looks. She was always fashionably dressed and attending an expensive private school, girls' school. Not at all the kind of fall for a bland, run-of-the-mill guy like me. When we played the pieces together, she gave me a sour look every time I hit the wrong note. She was a better pianist than I was, and I tended to get overly tense. So when the two of us sat side by side and played, I bungled a lot of notes. My elbow bumped against hers a few times as well. It wasn't such a difficult piece, and moreover, I had the easier part. Each time she blew it, she had this, or each time I blew it, she had this, give me a break expression on her face, and she'd click her tongue, not loudly, but enough that I can catch it. I can still hear that sound, even now. That sound may even have had something to do with my decision to give up piano. At any rate, my relationship with her was simply that we had to study in the same piano school. We'd exchange hellos if we'd ran into each other there, but I had no memory of our ever sharing anything personal. So, suddenly receiving an invitation to a recital, not a solo recital, but a group recital with three pianists, took me completely by surprise. In fact, had me baffled. But One thing I had in abundance that year was time. So I sent off a reply postcard saying I would attend. One reason I did this was I was curious to find out what lay behind the invitation, if indeed there was a motive. Why, after all this time, send me an unexpected invitation? Maybe she had become much more skilled as a pianist and wanted to show me that. Or perhaps there was something personal that she wanted to convey to me. In other words, but still figuring out how best to use my sense of curiosity and bang my head against all kinds of things in the process. The recital hall was at the top of one of the mountains in Kobe. I took the Heiku train line as close as I could, then boarded a bus that made its way up a steep, winding road, got off at the stop near the very top, and after a short walk, arrived at the modest-sized concert venue, which was owned and managed by an enormous business conglomerate. I had known that there was a concert hall there, in such an inconvenient spot at the top of a mountain in a quiet, upscale residential neighborhood. As you can imagine, there were plenty of things in the world that I didn't know about. I felt that I should bring something to show my appreciation for having been invited, so at the florist near the train station, I had selected a bunch of flowers that seemed to fit the occasion, and had wrapped as a bouquet. The bus had shown up just then, and I'd hopped aboard. It was a chill Sunday afternoon. The sky was covered with thick gray clouds, and it looked as though a cold rain might start at any minute. There was no wind, though. I was wearing a thin, plain sweater under a gray herringbone jacket with a touch of blue, and I had a canvas bag that slung across my shoulder. The jacket was too new, a bag too old and worn out. In my hands was a gaudy bouquet of red flowers wrapped in cellophane. When I got on the bus decked out like that, the other passengers kept glancing at me. Or maybe it was just seemed as if they did. I could feel my cheeks turning red. Back then, I blushed at the slightest provocation, and the redness took forever to go away. Why in the world am I here? I asked myself as I hunched over my seat, cooling my flushed cheeks with my palms. Didn't particularly want to see this girl or hear the piano recital, so why was I spending all my allowance on a bouquet and traveling all the way up to the top of a mountain on the dreariest Sunday afternoon in November? But something must have been wrong with me when I dropped the reply postcard in the mailbox. The higher up the mountain we went, the fewer passengers there were on the bus, and by the time we arrived at my stop, only a driver and I were left. We got off the bus and followed the directions on the invitation up the gently sloping streets. Each time I turned a corner, the harbor came briefly into view and then disappeared again. The overcast sky was a dull color, as if blanketed with lead. There were a lot of